when guys go to churches, and there are exceptions to the rule, but most of them, if everybody up before them are women, the woman is the pastor, and I'm not coming against women pastors, I love you. I'm just talking about God's divine order. And I mean, look, I didn't create this thing. I wasn't there when God made Adam first. And I don't think God made a mistake by making Adam first. And I think that was God's design, because the Bible said for Adam was made first.
So there is a divine order, a biblical order when it comes to the structure that God has created. It is man, it is woman, it is children. That is God's divine order. That is God's perfect will, you can say. So the perfect will of God when it comes to his structure, his order, is man covering the woman, and the man and the woman covering the children, and the man being covered by Christ. That is God's divine order. That is the way he set it up. He created Adam first. But we see in today's world, especially here in America, in this modern culture, that the devil has been working hard to usurp that, because that's always been the trick of the enemy, to place the woman over the man so that the man submits to the woman and the woman leads the man. That's been the trick all along. Eve was deceived first, and then she deceived Adam. Or Adam wasn't deceived at all, but Adam just acquiesced, gave in to what Eve was tempting him with. Now, the ultimate responsibility falls on men. Men hold the ultimate responsibility in God's eyes. That's why God, when he was looking for Adam and Eve, he didn't ask Eve, "Where are you?" He said, "Adam, where are you?" But because the enemy knows that, he knows that when man is in his rightful place, when biblical men take their rightful place, then the society and the culture will fall in line accordingly. He's done whatever he could to cause this disruption in all areas of our culture. And you see it ever more so in black churches. In so-called black churches, churches that are predominantly black. You see it there more than anywhere else. Most black churches are female driven, even though they're not female led, because most black churches are being driven and are functionally led by women. So naturally, the progression would go to female pastors. That would be the natural progression. But did God want that? Was that something that was born out of neglect? Was it something that was born out of the fact that men weren't around to assume the leadership positions? So therefore, the women had to assume those positions. Now, another thing we have to do as leaders, as men in our homes, is to make sure that we are providing a financial security blanket for our family. And one way to do that is to incorporate gold and silver and other precious metals into your retirement portfolio. To download a free resource that talks about incorporating gold and silver and other precious metals into your retirement portfolio, go to thebiblicalconservative.com/gold or click on the link in the description.
The backbone of the African American church has always been on the back of the woman, the black woman. That is not a trope. That is something to carry as a something to be proud of. We did it because we had to. And that has caused women throughout the generations to be and act stronger than what they innately were meant to be. A lot of times we don't understand the true essence of a woman, right? But that whole masculine, feminine argument or what have you, men and women both are equal, but they operate in different facets. That's it. But if you have a woman that is moving against who she was innately created to be, then you're going to have people that are pissed off at her because she does well those things, but she's moving in the wrong facet. And we see this throughout the history of the Black church, right?
See what happens when men abdicate their roles in society and especially in the church. And this happens so often in the Black community in particular, to the point to where women unfortunately had to take on that mantle of being strong, of being masculine, to walk into roles and positions that God has not ordained for them to be in based upon their physical makeup, because they are the weaker vessel in terms of their physical makeup. They're equal in terms of value in the eyes of God, but we each have different responsibilities and roles. But unfortunately, because of the way that the church has morphed over the last 50, 60, 70 years, especially during the civil rights movement, and the attention that's been given to social justice, the attention that's been given to governmental programs, the attention that has been given to ensuring that personal responsibility is not taken as highly as governmental or social responsibility, that has lended itself to the rise of women being in positions, being in roles in the church that they weren't intended to be in. And because feminism has also risen during this time, it's also contributed to the strong Black woman trope, the strong woman trope, that a woman can do anything that a man can do trope. And that has seeped into the church and has now become foundational within a number of churches. So did Black church create masculine Black women? In some ways, yes. But I place the blame on the Black men. Because as men, we are responsible ultimately for what happens in our families and what happens in our communities. God will hold us responsible for what we do with the responsibility He has given us in terms of our family, how we shepherd our family, how we guide our families. That's a big responsibility. That doesn't mean you're not going to fall short. That doesn't mean you're going to make mistakes every now and then, but it's how you own that responsibility, recognize the need for God. The reason why God gave us this such an awesome responsibility is because it allows us to recognize our need for Him. We must turn to Him for guidance, turn to Him that's why He's our covering. That's why Jesus is our covering. The children turn to the parents, the wife turns to the husband, and the husband turns to God. That's how the relationship works. So you have Christ, husband, wife, children. And then when it comes to who they turn to for support and for the strengthening, the children turn to the parents, i.e. the wife turns to the husband turns to Christ. At the end of the day, the husband has to be reliant upon Christ. Has to be. The man has to be reliant upon Christ in order for that relationship, in order for that family, in order for that community to thrive. That's why the enemy attacks family so much. That's why the enemy comes against family so much.
There is no culture in the history of humankind that has risen to maximize their full human potential without family at the center of that culture. That does not exist any place in the history of the world except for Black folk in America. The marriage rate for Black folk in America have gone from 85% in the 50s to 23% today. 71% of our sisters are not married, and 29% of them will never, ever get married. 66% of black men are not married. Listen to this number. And 34% of them will never get married, according to all facts and statistics. 72% of our children are born out of wedlock, and 80% are raised in a single-parent household, principally by a Black woman. This is a problem of the modern Black man and woman. By the way, that age range, according to AI, is 18 to 50. It is having a profound impact on the building of intergenerational wealth. And I'll just give you a quick comparative statistic, and you'll understand and be able to identify the problem yourself. There are 5 major cultural groups in America. White folks, for 350 years, have had the highest median annual household income for 350 years. They no longer have that. They are number 3. 3. You know the old saying, when white folks catch a cold, black people catch pneumonia? The same thing is happening to white Americans. Marriage rate has gone from 90% among white folk to 57% now. We went from 85% to 23%. When white folks catch a cold, we catch pneumonia. I don't want to unpack all of the reasons for it. So, all you have to do, you can ask AI, is compare cultural group, annual median household wealth, and marriage rate. Here's what it looks like. Who do you think is number 1 in America in annual median household income today? East Indians at $124,000 a year. What is the marriage rate in the East Indian community? 94%. Number 2 are Chinese Asians in America. Average household annual median income, $110,000 a year. Number 3 are white people at $81,000 a year. Marriage rate, 57%. Number 4 are Hispanics. Median household income, $62,000 a year. What is the marriage rate? Nearly 70%. We are at the bottom. Median annual household income, $51,000 a year. Marriage rate, 23%. Now, if you do the math visually, there's a direct correlation between 2 working on building and managing wealth versus 1. That's where we are.
So instead of pastors boycotting Target and Dollar General, they need to be boycotting this sentiment in America that discourages marriage. They need to be boycotting this sentiment in the liberal Marxist wing of the Democratic Party that pushes the idea of live the way you want to live, a demonic Marxist live as thou wilt, Aleister Crowley idea that destroys marriage. You should be boycotting things that attack marriage. You should be boycotting the idea that marriage can be more than a union between a man and a woman. If you are a pastor after the heart of God, because God said he'll give you pastors after his own heart. So if you are a pastor after the heart of God, those are things you should be encouraging, because there is a direct correlation between a successful marriage, a successful community, and a successful country. So did the black church create masculine black women? Yes, I believe it did. Unknowingly, it did. So as feminism rose, so did the elevation of black women in black churches. So therefore, we have a number of black people, a number of communities, a number of churches in those communities that are functionally led by women. And God did not set out to ordain and lead his church that way. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. We're not victims. We are empowered for greatness.